today's topic is supporting reluctant clients to use budgets and cash flow forecast for growth. Today's speaker is Lynn Maggot. As you can see, she is the MD and the founder of Green Connection. I'm so happy you're here, Lynn. I would love to just share more about you, but of course, let's get deeper into this topic. But obviously, we'll start off by really launching our first, our first question. And it's really about clients using budget forecasting and financial management tools. So our first question, and feel free to add it in the chat, is what portion of your small business clients are using budgets and cash flow casting? None, and it's through a poll. So please select which one is close to you, which one represents what your clients are doing, and even yourself as a small business. None of you do it, about a quarter of them do, about half of your clients, about 3/4, or about all. Please do share with us in the chat. I mean, in the poll, and those who are on Facebook, please feel free to say so in the Facebook, to just share with us how many of you do that. Okay, so just to make sure you find that, if it's on your phone, you might just need to tap on your phone and it might, the poll will pop up. Otherwise, it's on your computer, it will also pop up that way. I hope you can all see it. All right. Have we got the results yet there, Carol? I can't seem to find it. Oh, there it is. So at the moment we have, okay, so we have 2 polls that have been answered. So about 30% is saying none. 37% of you are saying about 34% are using budgets and cash flow for forecasting, about half. So we have a lot, we have quite a bit between none are using forecasting, budgeting, and about a quarter who are using. So it's not too bad as a start. And then question 2 is also, what tools do most people use? So it looks like okay, so about a quarter, as you can see there, Lynn, this is very interesting insight as you're about to tackle this, to see about none are using anything. And then of those, about 35% are, and about 21. So it's a good 50%, but are using 60% are about using forecast. And then the tools that's interesting is to see what are people using. So some are using paper-based, 18%, but 65% are using Excel and Google Sheets, so just basic Excel. So that should be fascinating. And then about 50%, close to that, is accounting programs. Yeah, and others, please type in the chat. I don't know if anyone has typed in the chat or what is on Facebook. I don't see anything yet on the Facebook response. So this is a good start, Lynn. What do you think?
I definitely think it's a good start. If you think about the name of the webinar this week, it's about clients who are reluctant to use financial forecasting. But it seems we've got quite a nice crowd here, with about 70% who in fact do forecasting. And then, yes, and a lot of them do the financial management as well. So that's very reassuring, because it's only in that way that you can really grow your business.
Wonderful. So on that note, I will really hand it over to you, Lynn, to kind of get us started on this and see and hear from you. And then of course it'll be very interactive. So I look forward to our conversation and our discussion that will happen in the chat as well. And feel free to ask questions in the Q&A, and some of them will be answered throughout, or whoever can, between myself and Paul from IBASA, the MD of IBASA, will also respond where possible if there's some in the Q&A that we can tackle from there. All right, Lynn, thank you very much, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Yes, so supporting clients who are reluctant to use forecasting for growth. Yes, next slide, Carol. From the stats we saw this morning, the poll, the results of the poll, we saw that in fact may not be the case, which is great. So many of us start businesses for various reasons, but the main reason one should start a business is essentially to grow that business to serve you as the business owner. So it should serve your lifestyle and it should be the vehicle for you, the business owner, to achieve all their dreams. But in doing that, we need to monitor things as it goes along. To achieve our financial goals and objectives, a business owner continually needs to review actual performance against the targets that are set out. Next slide, Carol. So what is forecasting? Forecast essentially is definitely a critical business process that allows the owner to project what their future revenue, expenses, and profit will be, as well as what their cash flow is. And that's based on historical events and actual events that happen as your business operates. It provides you with a state of it provides insight into what the future state of your business would look like. And there are two types of financial forecasts we use. That is the income statement as well as the cash flow forecast. And both of these really assist us in understanding and managing our business. I just think it's relevant to point out the difference between a budget and a forecast. So a budget is very much a static document that's possibly done once a year. So there you look at what your expenses, your activities are firstly, and all those activities are linked to a cost and either an expense or revenue. And from there we can design our financial forecasts or budgets, our financial budgets. Whereas a forecast is a dynamic document that takes cognizance of what is happening in the year now. So as an example, if your target for a particular month was 10,000 Rand, you only end up making 5,000, a forecast will quickly alert you to that fact. And you should, as an entrepreneur, you should then really be on a course to fix that, to find the additional 5,000 so that you remain on track to achieve your targets. And there are various types of budgets: sales, production, procurement, expense. I'm not going to go into all of that in a lot of detail. As the saying goes, what you can measure, you can manage. So we set budgets so that we can measure it. And in turn, we can manage what we need to. As the example I just gave now, where you had a shortfall on sales, you measured what your performance was, and as a result, you can now manage it to achieve your business objectives. Next one, Carol. Why small businesses are reluctant to use forecasting? Look, that's the assumption that we worked under. And next slide, please, Carol. And I think a lot of it has got to do that small business owners who don't have any accounting experience may feel intimidated by all these hectic spreadsheets and accounting terminology and ratios. And that's my understanding. That's what they think.
It would be interesting to hear from the participants and our who's in the space, why they think their clients are reluctant to do this. Before you also give us a little bit more detail and experience from what you have, and even some of us who might be having our own companies that we are running as well, and why are we reluctant? Please feel free to share some of it in the chat just to kind of get some insight from you before our dearest speaker, Lynn, delves a little bit more deeper into it. I don't know if there's anyone who has something to say on that point, or just share the insight or the experience on that question.
Yes, I think for us as business advisors, it will be very insightful if people can in fact say, my
Yes.
client did it, did they
Uh-huh.
pay against it or they embrace it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, we've got 2 responses already, actually. Eric is saying, they don't have time or knowledge on how to do it. So that's why they are reluctant. Or Bernard, he's saying that he's reluctant mainly due to lack of knowledge and systems. So that's also very good to know. And often Diana is also sharing there. She's reluctant because of her personal competence and anxious around dealing with finances. It is, right? Because it also kind of just tells you, okay, you're not doing well, even more maybe, who knows. Andile, the client feels that it takes a lot of their time. Some it is due to lack of knowledge. Okay, great, wonderful. Ian, you've raised your hand. You want to share something, or you want to keep it? Go ahead.
It was a mistake.
Oh, okay, no problem. I tell you, technology. And then yes, this is what I've noticed. Okay, so Diana's like sharing like what she's noticed around her clients, the anxiousness and anxiety. So what do you think, Len? Let me hand that over to you after all that. And thank you so much for the interaction in the chat on that. And I see we have a couple of Q&A there. Go ahead, Len.
Yeah, so I guess I wasn't too far off. And yes, I can understand that people with no finance background who have businesses to run, who in most instances are man alone or woman alone and have to see to everything. Yes, forecasting is time consuming. Being on top of things is extremely time consuming. And I guess that's one area where, there's a need. There's also, it was mentioned that systems is also what is required to make things easier, because using Excel spreadsheets, you can make an error anyway. If they're not automated, you really have to know your stuff. Now, if you're sitting there doing a forecast and production's got a mess up on the line and a client is phoning about bad service, it really becomes too much for just one person to handle. So I think there's a need to explore how one makes it easier for entrepreneurs to do financial forecasting. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
You can go to the next slide. So that's just a demonstration of everything that entrepreneurs have to put up with. That totally intimidates some of them. Okay, why small business owners are reluctant about financial forecasting. I think we covered all of those, Carol.
Mm-hmm.
Does it need to become so complicated? I definitely don't think it needs to be so complicated. I just want to share an experience I had recently with a client. I worked with some clients of some of Cedar's clients who had the brief was to teach this group of entrepreneurs how to compile an income statement from their bank statements. And there were 4 ladies, and all of them thoroughly enjoyed the experience. Firstly, they could do it. They were amazed at what they had produced from that bank statement. They understood what their income was for the month, what their sales was. They understood what their cost of sales was and the expenses. So doing an income statement should not be daunting for any entrepreneur. It's really that simple. I think maybe the accountants kept it complicated to make sure that they are the ones who do it. But really, every SME, every business owner should have a thorough understanding of their finances. So, yes, so that is an example of where somebody who knows nothing about numbers was in fact able to produce an income statement. So cash flow forecasting. Next one. There are a number of forecasting tools, and I've selected 4 here. I'm sure you can find a myriad of them online. It is good to use a system because that makes the time you spend on doing this thing more efficient. So, for example, if you do it on QuickBooks, it could just produce the numbers for you because it has a sense of what your historical numbers are. I'm not quite sure if that is the case, but I would have thought a forecasting system allows you to do that, and then projects what the forecasts are based on certain assumptions. And it's actually a good thing to use these tools instead of your Excel spreadsheet, because that brings efficiencies into your business and frees you up to do other things. Next one, Carol. So the inputs into cash flow projections, sales expenses, what your purchases are going to be, your consumables, and whatever else you're aware of that would impact on your cash flow. So I think what's extremely important in terms of managing cash flow is that there's discipline. It needs to happen consistently. For example, every Monday morning, maybe you come into the office and you do your forecast. Look at what your income is going to be from debtors, sales. You can estimate what your sales are going to be because you've got information and knowledge. That is if you know your numbers. You know what your expenses are going to be, and you basically say my sales less expenses plus what my opening balance was, and that would inform you about whether you can be happy or whether you need to start worrying about where the money is going to come from. Yeah, but you know, it's not necessary to worry. If you know what the issue is, then you can maybe think about how can I quickly turn some money. Maybe I've got obsolete stock in the warehouse that I can quickly sell on a promotion or things like that. But again, this demonstrates that the minute you have the knowledge, the minute you know, you can respond to that. Thanks, Carol. The benefits of forecasting, it definitely eliminates the stress because now you know, and then you know what you can do to mitigate against that stress. It allows the owner to take a proactive approach to access more cash if that's needed through sales and all of those. Another thing which is a benefit of doing cash flow forecasting is that you adopt a proactive approach to collection of monies from debtors. You know, that is the bit that, because of time constraints, again, as a business owner, many of us tend to leave that by the wayside. But if you're looking at that cash flow projections on a Monday morning, you get someone to phone up the clients and do what's necessary. You can also then push your sales team, put together a little incentive to get either agents or your staff to go out and sell a bit more. And then again, reducing expenses that may not be business critical. Next one. So just before we go further, I'm going to use another example of a client I worked with, Alison Adams from Langebaan. She owns Laguna Laundry. Now, I met Alison last year when the lockdown happened. And I mean, it was not only Alison, there were many frantic clients thinking about how am I going to manage, what am I going to do? And you know, when you've got all that muddle jumble in your head, it's difficult to see the light. So we prepared a spreadsheet for her, taking into account opening balance, what is my projected, what are the sales that I still need to collect from my debtors, and what are my expenses. So these are my expenses. So where can I cut out now? You know, what can I do to manage things? How much money do I need to go and ask the bank for? How much money do I need to ask a rich uncle for? Whatever the case is. So that puts everything into perspective, and then it definitely alleviates the stress at that point. So from that moment on, Alison went on to implement this cash flow forecasting on a regular basis. And she was so excited when I spoke to her recently. She talked about the fact that not only is she collecting her money from her debtors timeously, but she's also looking for other opportunities because she wants to cover off more expenses. So now she's driving more sales. And that's really put her in a position where her business is growing. Right.
Thank you, Lynn. I love that example because it's so real, it's so alive, you know, and it helps us to figure out how to do it. Mpho, do you want to say something?
Yes, as Lynn was talking, I'm also reflecting from an individual perspective. There was a study that was done by one of the big four chartered accountants firm. I think it was Deloitte, in terms of like doing the pre, during, and where we are in terms of how the pandemic has affected us as consumers, you know, from a business perspective and from an individual expenditure and income perspective. And what was really interesting to pick up from that was that all of us are now living beyond our means, whether you're a business or an individual. That is why you see most businesses now are cutting on, you know, the retrenchments are taking place, you know. And now the big question is, how do you bring the forecasting or the whole cash flow issues when people, you know, or the sales issue have to improve when everybody is keeping the budget tight? I know I can see some of my FinCom members are participating in the room. I'm always having a headache as to the cost saving, the sales aspect. How do we make sure we at least break even at the end of the month? And it's everything that all of us are faced with. Individually, people are living beyond their means. That's a fact. And from a business perspective, and remember those individuals are running businesses, how do they now bring the whole practical aspect? Because now they're using credit cards. You have to think about what is happening at home. You have to think about client. You have to think about employee. It's no longer about just you, you know. There are other people that are taking place. And as an advisor, how do you come on board to assist such an individual who has to think not just about self, but other people and factors that are impacting on that cash flow management aspect?
I certainly hope.
Go ahead, Lynn.
I certainly hope that the bit of information that we shared previously would assist them. Don't get yourself into a state of not knowing. Always be on top of things, always know. And once you know, then you can act. But definitely don't make as if it doesn't exist, because then you'll just carry on spending unnecessarily. Yeah.
So it would be interesting then to find what language do we use to encourage them, because what I hear what you're saying then suddenly is that help them know. So if maybe the word financial is scary, we don't know, but maybe we can chat about that later. But please feel free, everyone who's here, all 63 of you, to post some questions on the Q&A, and also use the chat to welcome yourself. Hi, Brenna, I can see you chat. You added your hi to Q&A, no worries. Go to the chat function and introduce yourself there. And the Q&A is for any questions for any of the panelists. That will be great. Go ahead. Over to you again, Lynn.
Okay, so now we're quickly going to touch on income statements. Carl, if you can go to the next slide. So really your income statement, what does it consist of? It consists of your turnover, cost of sales, and your expenses. So it's really not that complicated. Next slide, please. What is important is that you have some of the tools that bring you to that point. So here's an example of a sales forecast. It needs to be quite detailed. So if you have a system that does it, it could potentially be, the process could be more efficient rather than using Excel spreadsheets, but it's got to be down to the absolute level of detail, such as this cleaning company. They targeted specific clients and they wanted to achieve a specific amount of value from those clients, even with new clients, So now you've got to build strategies around how am I going to approach those new clients and how am I going to convince them to use my services. Next slide. And then, of course, this is just an example of a 5-year projection of expenses. This is a big company. So it's important to look at this type of information, I think, on a monthly basis. If you do that, you sort of begin to understand what the numbers mean. So if, for example, your telephone bill is 1,500 rand for every month and suddenly it goes to 3,000, you need to start thinking about who is using the telephone after hours, or what can I do to make sure that that doesn't happen again? Because at the end of the day, your employees may not understand that, the business needs to reduce costs and all of those things. So, yeah, I want to reiterate that by looking at your numbers on a regular basis, which is monthly, that allows you to understand and be in tune with what your numbers should be. Next slide. Yeah, so here's an income statement, simple. From what your sales are through invoices or cash sales, your costs, what your gross margin is, what your overheads are, and your net profits. So the three lines for me that's extremely important on an income statement. Look, you do manage the numbers, but more importantly, look at the percentage, because that helps you gauge trends. And when you see your trends are out of kilter, then you know there's also challenges which you need to investigate. So, for example, in year 1, if your gross margin moved to be, your gross margin percentage moved to be 50%, you would need to go and investigate, why is there such a major deviation from what I had budgeted or anticipated? And again, that teaches you to understand the numbers of your business, which is critical. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. So the 3 important things to manage are those 3 things. So this is a poll now. People going to...
Yeah, nice. Okay. There's quite interesting questions in the chat, and then there's this. I don't know where I should start. We should first approach what's in the chat, and then we go into this question just now, Carol. Just to kind of, so that we don't lose the momentum of, okay, let's go to the poll. Okay. Just, I don't want to lose. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, Tabeka. It will be interesting to just get Lynn before we go to the poll. I'm looking at William's question, because that touches on the reality that most of us are faced with on a daily basis. So it will be interesting if we can just address that. How do we apply a logical approach into the whole aspect so that people can appreciate the whole process? Because it is this different animal. When it has to happen, you stress before it happens, so yeah.
So I think again is always focusing on what your bigger picture is. Why am I running this business? You should never ever lose sight of the why you're running your business. You're not just doing it because you need to put food on the table tonight. There's a bigger picture involved. You're running that business to build a legacy that potentially finances your dreams and all of those things. Yes, people are reluctant. There was a bit of a long thing there. There's no point for financial records be leaving the money in their pockets or in the bank account is sufficient data. Okay, that's very disappointing to hear that thinking, because building a business is building value. There's a balance sheet that's also produced every month. I pay attention to that on a quarterly basis generally, but that balance sheet ultimately determines what your net worth is, or what the net worth of the business is. So in a few years' time, you've built that business through formal banking records, through doing everything, being compliant and all of those things. In 10 years' time, you'd be in a position to sell that business, and the balance sheet holds that kind of information. So I would certainly urge advisors to continue to talk to your clients about the bigger picture and why they're in the business. They're there to build value, build a legacy, build their dreams. Yeah. Okay, I see Vinod.
I like that. Turnover is a vanity.
Yeah, turnover is vanity and profit is sanity, but without turnover, there wouldn't be any sanity. Eh? At the end of the day, turnover is what drives the business, and how you manage it essentially leads to profit and sanity.
Wonderful, great. I like that thought process. And I think that's where we need to do is when we meet our clients is to ask them firstly, why are they doing what they're doing? Where do they see themselves? So that then you kind of bring a story alive for them, if I understand. So then you say, okay, so how do you think you'll get there? What are some of the ways of getting there? And then have the money. So you need the money to get there. So you need to keep track of how much you need to get there. So it's all interlinked. And I think a lot of times that interlink, the connection is not picked up. So thank you on that, Lynn, and thank you. That was a great question that makes us have a practical takeaway from here on how to connect with our clients and with ourselves. Go ahead. So maybe we should just go into the poll that we were about to run, and just again to get the feel of where everyone is. So what describes the best way your client approaches financial management? So are they more unaware of the need to budget and forecast, pass on all accounting and forecast to an accountant? So they just say, I'm not doing this. There you go, accountant Lynn, you deal with it. Or do own budget forecast, but uses external accounting for bookkeeping, or do budget forecasts and keeping internally. I don't know if there's anyone on Facebook. Okay, no one's on Facebook that might respond to these questions. But our feedback is coming nicely there. There's quite a bit of, let's see what's happening here. Yeah, so about 39% pass on all accounting and forecast to an accountant, plus 29% go on to give it over to an accountant. Sure. That's quite a percentage.
I don't like it.
So now tell me, why don't you like it? Why do you think it's important? I know we'll get into that. Sorry, Mpho, you wanted to say something?
I'm just saying, it's the reality. When you think of the numbers, it's like you're faced with a lion, you know, and it's either you run, or if you can hide behind someone who can tackle this lion, let that person tackle this lion or big elephant. So think about it, how many times we have been having financial modules. Even today, people are still seeing budgeting and forecasting, anything that has to do with numbers, as this difficult process to undertake. Even technology now has overtaken finance. You know, we used to think that technology is a special field. You know, not all of us are tech savvy, but now it's our way of living. You know, so maybe we need to we need to change how we present or portray this process so that it's appreciated and all of us can take ownership and not shift it to the next person, you know. Because even you say, you know, when you think of a CFO, they're cutting budgets, you know, as this negative person, financial person, negative person. So it's how we present that sort of make people to be reluctant, you know. We love spending. Don't ask us to budget.
Great, no, thank you. Go ahead, Lynn. Should I close it, or you want to talk to it a little longer, Lynn? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just, this is exactly what we were expecting. And I think the longer we see this trend, the longer we're going to see businesses fold. Because the financial aspects of your business is the most important in my view, you know, after making the sale. If you think about Lucinda, that owner of a hair salon, a small hair salon in Darling, she turns over 15,000 a month, which is good money. But now that Lucinda is empowered to put together her numbers and see what she's spending her money on, she would then start taking action around, should I increase my price? Should I get more customers? Where do I cut down on expenses? So abdicating that responsibility is really giving away everything you have to someone else to take ownership of it. I think a business owner should review their management accounts every single month. So that you get in tune with the numbers. Don't just look at annual financial statements a year down the track, because then it's too late.
True.
So there's some questions there in the chat. Before we, thanks for those 2 questions. We'll come back to those. Let's just go to the final part of your presentation, Lynn, to conclude us nicely there. Are you ready for that part? And then we tackle the questions and yeah.
So it's really not complicated. All you look at is your sales, your gross margin, and your net profit percentage. If someone teaches you to do that, and you believe that with this formula you're in a position to grow your business, then I can't see why it's that complicated. Next slide. Yes, just some financial tools that you should always, or business processes that you should always try and have in your business. Do a business plan annually to give you, firstly, it gives you, you do it because you want to see how did I perform in the previous year? What worked, what didn't work? How do I improve on what I do going forward? How can I increase my turnover? Is it new products, new markets, acquisition of another business? You know, you need to think strategically about how to grow your business. From that business plan, you'll get your sales, you'll get all your numbers and your budgets and things. Look at management accounts. I don't know, that's, for me, that's the most important thing in any business, the management accounts, and use those management accounts to make business decisions. That grows your business. And then also looking at income statement and cash flow projections, but more importantly, the cash flow projections to keep yourself out of that stressful mode. Yeah, the benefits of income statement forecasting. You focus on achieving your goals and ultimately your life goals and your dreams. You proactively manage your business for success. And you have a thorough understanding of business. You know, I always think about these people with JSE listed companies, or, you know, big business, and they talk about, oh, the margins on that category of product is X amount. Isn't it great to have that kind of knowledge about your business? And the only way you acquire that is by getting into the stuff in your business and owning it. And that will allow you to have your finger on the pulse of your business at all times. I think we're at the end of it.
Interesting.
Sure.
At least at the end of my presentation.
Awesome, great. No, thank you, Lynn. Your presentation has given us a lot of food for thought, and some people are sorry that they had to leave a bit, but felt a very fruitful session. Thank you so much for really putting this together and giving us the space to really have this conversation and ask ourselves critical questions so that we can see what we can put in action for our clients. So there's some questions. I don't know if you would like to approach one of those. So we did have one more poll. I don't know if it's in relation, but let's first tackle what's happening here so that no one leaves without their questions more or less acknowledged or read or answered. Mpho or Lynn, did you have any question specifically, Mpho first, while Lynn is catching up on some of
I'm just looking at the chat, Tabeka, and those are very interesting because you see that literally the challenge that advisors are faced with, which is common, it's a common thread across the board, is that, you know, SMMEs, I'm looking at what Venot said, that we need to understand the whole issue of costing and pricing, which is the biggest challenge for SMMEs. And most of us, we still grapple with that. And that is why at the end of the day, we don't realize profit margin because we missed it at that aspect, you know, of understanding the difference between costing and pricing, you know. So probably it's one of the things that as advisors, we need to be patient with our clients and take them through, because at the end of the day, the only way that they can appreciate and take ownership is when we go through baby steps and not build the reliance, because that's what also advisors we do in most cases. It's fine, I can take this animal, tackle this animal called financial aspect, you know, focus on running the business. But at the same time, you are not empowering your client, you're disempowering that individual. So hence, you need to create a balance and at least remove the dependency aspect so that they take ownership of the whole process. What else? I think the other one says that we need to also do marketing plans. I think it's still Venot saying the same thing. I mean, sharing some issues on marketing plan, which is important. I want to see.
I guess there's
also
an interlink there, because I think if someone doesn't know what their books look like, how much they're making, how much they're losing, it goes back to vision, I guess, of where they're going, and then they can have money to find a way to expand and get more clients. Then you can market.
I also like what Jabu was saying about modifying this financial jargon, because sometimes when you use this jargon, it's like a French language to me, you know, you make it simple. So, and he literally says, maybe one of the things that as advisors, we need to really modify the financial jargon so that at least our clients can appreciate and understand what needs to happen, how do they get involved, and how do they take ownership of their personal finances and the whole forecasting and budgeting issues.
If I can just respond to that, but I don't think modification of the language is going to change anything.
Tell us more.
Empowering those business owners with what that complicated language means and breaking it down into simple stuff, you know. And it's a reality. People are intimidated by numbers. So we need to think about how we change that. And I've seen it happen. And I mean, it's amazing when people even with limited education get to understand, wow, did I do this? You know, it's almost like an epiphany. And that's the place we need to get our clients to, and not hold that knowledge to ourselves.
Yes.
By holding that knowledge to yourself, you're not really doing your job properly. It's about empowering that business advisor.
Agreed. That's what I was saying. We need.
Yeah,
that's why I was emphasizing the whole issue of moving away from the dependency. And, you know, because you know that once you allow your clients to be dependent on you to always do things for them, then they'll never be empowered, you know. So I agree with you, Lynn.
So there's a question in the Q&A by Ayula, and I think we kind of touched on that just to make sure we don't. So it's at the bottom of our screen, Q&A. He says, and then also Ian also has a question there, McCain. I don't know if you want to tackle any of that, or maybe Ian wants to elaborate, because I don't know if I understood completely his question, if it's complete. But while that's happening, Ayula says some clients are reluctant to use budgets and cash flow forecasting due to the belief that the outcome might overwhelm them due to their business size. They feel they are either too small for it or feel their business finance is too personal. How do you get them to see it from a growth point of view?
Yeah, that's no business is too small to start doing cash flow. And I think that the sooner you do it, the more it becomes something that happens in the course of business, the more that discipline is installed in your organization. So let's just start off with that when you're small. And I have to be honest with the second part of that question around sharing finances. Business advisors are there to help you grow. Business advisors are not going to charge you more if your turnover is more. If they do, you fire them. So work with a business advisor who has your best interest at heart, who won't exploit you. Then why should your finances become a secret? That's my take on that question.
Great. Thank you. Thank you on that, Lynn. I hope, Ayula, that helps. And, oh, sorry, Ian, you had to leave and we didn't even answer your question or have you elaborate a little more on that. I don't know if you, Lynn or Mpo, you can pick up what he's trying to say there, or...
What is it? 64% don't do budgets. How can so many people do them? You mean not do them? I must say it's not untoward. That was my expectation because of the whole, I don't know if it's a culture, in among SMEs and business advisors, that you put all your dependence on that business, your accountant, as they call them. Accountants are there for a reason. They do VAT, they do income tax, they do a myriad of things that business advisors maybe shouldn't play in that space. Business advisors' objective is to help that business to grow their business. And helping a business to grow, they must have budgets, and I think it's for us as business advisors to change that narrative. Well, 4% is just too high.
And I think also it boils down to, it's so easy as an individual now. I'm just thinking I'm going to do practical profession. When you go to the doctor, you can tell a doctor almost everything, you are even happy to undress without, being ashamed because you want help. But when it comes to the issues of finance, all of us will find ways to cover that up until we go to our graves, because it's a shameful thing, and that's why at the end of the day, people will say, but we thought everything was in order. We thought this business was successful. We thought everything was running perfectly. So we need to also promote a culture where we can openly have a discussion without shame about our personal finances, our business finances, so that we can grow. Just remove that shame facade and be positive that, at the end of the day, the beginning might be tough, but in the process, when I come out, things will be different, That's just my last piece of thought.
Great. No, thank you very much on that. Actually, that last poll, I think will be a nice way to figure out and start thinking about the response to this problem, so that whatever option we use, can you run that last poll, please, Carl, on why do small business clients resist taking charge of financial management? You may select more than one option, because then we've kind of fully named it, and then we can now say, okay, this is what we are approaching or trying to solve. I know we've discussed it a bit, but it will also be nice to kind of just see where we at, so that as an advisor, you don't think, oh, it's just me, or is it maybe am I doing wrong or something, that we're all in this together and we can share our experiences on that question. So why do so many small business clients resist taking charge of financial management. You may select more than one option. They are focused on operations, so they're working in their business more, or focused on just sales in their business. They do not have the skills. They do not use the benefit. A negative mindset towards accounting, or any other thing that we might forget. Yeah, so these I feel are great questions on that, to kind of just conclude, even though we've been talking about more or less the same thing, but it's just nice to see it in black and white. So what is our response to that? Okay, so some of the responses, okay, we have put 53% have tackled this. So they are focused operationally. So 50% is their focus operationally, and then 62% is they do not have the skills. So we have a lot of people who do not have the skills. So, and it's interesting because you kind of touched on it, Lynn, a bit, is how the accountants might make it seem more difficult than what it is. Us working on it and building our basic skills around this, does that take away any work from the accountants, really?
I don't think so. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Tobeka, I don't think so. Management accounting is very different to financial accounting. You know, the financial accountants are the bean counters, the one that's making sure that that thing reconciles to the last 2 cents. The management accountants are the ones who look at the business. You know, where are you selling your products? What's the profile of your customer? What are the geographic regions you can expand into? So I really think that there's a role for both financial accountants and there's a role for management accountants. And I'm not sure that the management accounting role is one that is very prominent out there. You know, people do this because they have accountants to do that and this and that, because if they don't, there's going to be a consequence with SARS. But it's about getting business owners to understand that I must know these things, and I must get a mentor who can help me to get to teach me what I need to know to drive this business.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I noticed the correlation between people who don't have budgets, which was 64%, and then the people who don't have skills to do this forecasting, which was 62%. So, you know, I think it's lack of knowledge, being intimidated by something they don't know, and just putting it aside because I don't like it, and I'd sooner go do things in my business that I enjoy doing.
Sure.
Love that, because then, so now it gives us a feel of, okay, let's focus on that, because let's work on that, because again, it's all connected, right? Because once you have that, someone touched on it, it's got to do with your marketing. And then it helps with you operationally at the end, right? On your business. And you know where to pull and push and add and subtract certain things operationally. And then it helps you, because then about 32% focus on sales. And then there's a huge number, 47%. Yeah, I guess that negative mindset towards accounting. So there's that thing, is a negative mindset towards the accounting and do not have the skill. So there's another whole thing there that one can play with at that 47%. All right. I think we are nearly at the end, but just so that you all know, my colleague Carol has just shared feedback in the chat for everyone to fill in. That will be great if you all can, because it's really about us using this platform to help ourselves as practitioners, to help our clients, to help our city, our country, our continent, and our world. It's all interconnected. And it's really about also our next topic that we will be talking about. But also, before I just add on that, I really think that I would like to give Mpo an opportunity to, for her to present something, and then we will end by letting you know what our next topic is, which will be on the 13th of May. Lynn, thank you so much for your time and for your knowledge and for your insight and for the work you've done in the space, and really bringing the practicality and sharing with us some of your experiences with some of your clients across our country.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Lynn.
Go ahead, Mpho.
Thank you, Thobeka. I don't know whether Carol is ready with my slides.
Yes, they will be coming now soon. But while he's flipping through it, Sylvester's asking if we can get a recording of the webinar. Yes, it is on Facebook. There will be an updated version edited, and you can find it on Facebook. On that note, Mpho, please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Thobeka. Thank you, Carol. We can move to the next slides. I'm just making quick announcement on some of the things that we can look forward to. I think I've been talking about the AGM that is coming up in May for the past almost over 5 months, if not 4 months. So finally the AGM is here. It will be in May. We'll tell you about the date, but I think if I'm not mistaken, it's around the 23rd of May. And tomorrow is the closing of the nomination. I encourage everyone to please use this opportunity again to be part of IBASA from a leadership perspective. We can really use some visionary leaders who can definitely shape the new narrative in terms of how we should really grow as an organization. I mean, with all these things that we're faced with, from pandemics and economic challenges, you know, it's not one man's responsibility. It takes an army and a collective to really shape an organization. So I'm calling out to all of you, please use this opportunity. We're closing tomorrow, and I look forward collectively with the board to receiving your nomination. And another activity that will be taking place starting from next week, the chairman will be having some roadshows. Most of these roadshows will be taking place virtually. So the first session will be the KZN session. So we'll be sending out some communication to all of you so that you can attend this session. It's very important that you interact with the leadership and ask questions that you might be having that are burning, that maybe I as an MD have failed to address. Now is your turn to really engage with the chairperson and you know, and ask some questions and get clarity on where we're taking this organization. Another exciting process, it's the whole mentorship and coaches workshop. This is designed to really, firstly, what we'll be doing is that we'll be having a physical setup here at our Ekurhuleni office, but we'll also try to connect virtually with other provinces because, you know, we have to stick to the COVID safety regulation. It is important that we constantly refine our skills and we engage more as mentors and coaches. And for me, I find this platform very critical, especially with some of the projects that we have in the pipeline. You remember last month, I announced that we won a tender that will be taking place and literally executing in the province of Northwest. And this is just one of the opportunities that we are creating for you as our members. We don't just want one province. The intention is to go nationally. So as we prepare to other national opportunities, I think it's important that we refine our skills and we engage as to how we can make sure that from a mentorship and coaching perspective, we can strengthen the business advisory next generation, you know. So I'm therefore extending the invite to everyone, and we'll definitely do, as we do normally, send you invites online, send you a proper invite with a date and time so that you can join us. But I look forward to engaging with you. I'm sure you must have seen that we introduced a slot about member profile. We seldomly tell our stories, our good stories. We work so hard, and I've engaged with some of the advisors. There's so many stories that we need to share. It's about time that we let the world know that, you know, what these individual business advisors are doing as individual, also from a collective perspective. So through this profiling, it's part of making sure that sometimes you think that you have to do it alone, but you can use the IBASA platform to connect with other business advisors or to connect with other opportunities that you couldn't even access when you were doing it alone. And people can know that, oh, Tobeka is part of the, you know, the advisory industry, and look what she has done. This is what I've been looking for, you know. So this is part of making sure that we now shine a spotlight on you, our members, and the good work that you're continuously doing on a daily basis. So send us our stories. We'll be doing a little bit of a podcast to spice up the profiling, but at the end of the day, if the accounting fraternity can make all sorts of noise, or the doctors can talk about them, why can't we talk about the advisory and make it a profession of choice? You know, so it's one of the things that we're trying to drive, so that young people can start seeing business advisory as a profession of choice. And just to emphasize, please, if you have anything that you want to engage on, if I missed anything or you have questions, feel free to engage me. My mobile, you can call me. I do take call in the middle of the night because some of our clients are international, international call members. So I'm just at your service. You know, WhatsApp me, email me, and I look forward to the May session. I can't wait, actually, the workshop, the webinars and other activities that I've shared with you.
Great. Yeah, there's been quite a bit of questions, I think. We'll see in the chat. Thank you so much, Mpo. Well, no, there's been one. But thank you so much, Mpo, on sharing that. That's exciting. And so, yeah, partake in, be aware of the AGM, be aware that tomorrow, what time tomorrow, if you don't mind me, is the latest the person can send nominees, by the way?
Until midnight. You know, like student, let's just say the typical student, you know, when we're submitting assignments, if it's not 12 midnight.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, awesome. So you have until literally 11:50, 59, so that it gets through there by 12 midnight. Yep. Thank you very much, Mpo, on that. And also it makes us look forward to our next month. Next month, our topic is rescuing small and micro businesses in distress. What are the opportunities? You know,
exciting.
Exciting. We touched on distress, so now we're going a little deeper on that, you know, so don't feel, oh no, they've had this, why are they doing it again? You know, as you noticed, we kind of go a little bit more deeper. It's all about the practicalities. So this will be a great topic for us, for all. And please book your place on the webinar. We'll send the website and on the website, and there's a link there to register. Share it with your network, share it with your clients and your colleagues on that. Thank you very much for the session. Thank you everyone who's attended, for your precious time, and be safe. Keep sanitizing and taking care of yourselves, and yeah, and be kind and loving.
Thank you, Tobeka. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Tobeka and Carol.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Carol. Great.